everybody. Welcome back to the Canadian Love Map podcast. I'm with Madison, and we are anticipating a fun episode today. Are you ready?
So I am a huge Canada's Drag Race fan, and I knew that we absolutely had to have somebody on from that show, and here we are today.
So what Madison does is she's like Nancy Drew. That's an old reference. You're much younger than I am, but she's like a super sleuth, and she goes out and finds a guest. So you found gold.
I did Uma Gahd and Selma Gahd. Uma Gahd from season 5 of Canada's Drag Race, and this duo is such a powerhouse, and they have such a great love story.
Yeah, they're a couple as well, and they have traveled all over the world with their art, doing shows.
Yeah, they've traveled all over Canada and the world, so very lucky to have them on today.
Yeah, and I'm ready because you know what? They are just full of fun and dynamism and confidence, and I think they've got a message the world needs. So here we go. Selma and Uma, welcome to the Canadian Love Map podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I didn't want to say your full names because I really want to hear you say them first.
Well, I'm Uma Gahd from Canada's Drag Race Season 5. I'm Selma Gahd, not from Canada's Drag Race Season 5, although I did appear on the show in a picture.
But I bet you got to watch it from a whole different perspective as it unfolded. Shall we start there? Shall we talk about Canada's Drag Race?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, how did that happen for you?
I've been auditioning for Canada's Drag Race for every season since it started. I've gotten very, 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 very close a couple of times. Other times I've gotten not even remotely close at all. And then finally, season 5 came around and they said, all right, let's do it. It's time.
They said, okay, Uma is really persistent. We better take her. If she's this persistent, she's going to do great on the race.
Exactly.
What was it that made you want to do it so badly?
As an artist, because drag it's an art form, right? Mm-hmm. And as an artist, you're only provided so many platforms that can really, take you to a level where you can make a living off of your art. It's not easy for any artist to do it, but as a queer nightlife performer, it's even more limited. So being able to be on Drag Race kind of gives you that boost up that you can. Even if it's just to be able to tell people, like, come to my show, you might remember me from Drag Race. And they go, right, Drag Race. Like, even if it's just that, it's just bringing you up a little bit so that way you can really make the most out of a career that I was already thriving in.
Yes, it's just a great boost to your brand.
Yeah, but she's a little bit too humble, though, because she's been doing drag for a decade, and she's been traveling all over the world with plays that we write ourselves, and we've got nominations for Best Comedy by Just for Laughs. We've had a residency in Mexico. We've been to Edinburgh Fringe with sold-out shows. We've done everything we could possibly do on our own. We've been on all the biggest stages. We've been all over the world. So the only step left was for Uma to be on television, but not herself, because she's also been on television as an extra before. So there really was only one place left for her to go, and that was be the star on Drag Race. So let's be real here.
It sounds like life is not at all a drag for you two. Sounds pretty exciting. How did this all start?
I had no intention of ever doing drag. I come from a teeny tiny little village outside of Ottawa in Ontario. And, I internalized a lot of that notion of what a drag queen is and what it means to be, a feminine gay person. And it was everything. I was like, no way, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I moved to Montreal. I did some backup dancing for a celebrity impersonator, and then I did the Rocky Horror Show. So, this is the live version where we have to sing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was Rocky.
What?
Yeah, that's the reaction most people give us, absolutely. And Frankenfurter was being played by a drag queen, and, at the very beginning, we really didn't get along. There was no interest in any sort of, cooperation of any kind. But by the end of the run, we became best friends, and she kind of said to me, she said, well, I want to do a fringe play in the Montreal Fringe Festival, and I want it to be a drag theater piece. And I was like, well, I'm not interested in doing drag. And she said, yeah, but we're going to do it for the Fringe. So one, it's not, you're not doing drag, you're doing theater. She knew how to play it for me. And she said, you're going to do it for, 9 nights, and then you'll never have to do it again. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll do it for 9 nights, but never do it again. And it's been 10 and a half years, and I'm still doing it.
Do you think she had an inkling that it was really going to be a love for you?
I think that she knew that I wanted to be on stage, and I think that she knew that I was the kind of person that was up for anything. Mm-hmm. Doing Rocky Horror does kind of like bring out a certain kind of artist that's like willing to try a lot of stuff. So I think she had a lot of faith in that. And I mean, obviously she was right. Well, I had a great time doing the initial play, and then, the 6 other shows that we've written since then. And so, yeah. And then eventually, basically, Selma is my partner out of drag. And so Selma was there the whole time, cheering me on, encouraging us, organizing everything when things fell apart, making sure people show up on time. And then eventually she started her own drag career.
But yeah, I think also it started way before that, though, because we've been doing art since high school, right? Like we go way back.
Did you meet in high school?
So yeah, we actually did meet in high school. So you were in the dance program at Canterbury in Ottawa, and I was in Gatineau, and I did circus and theater. So my background is circus and theater. Uma's background is in dance. And we've been doing shows ever since then. We just basically have never stopped. It's always evolved into different art forms. But basically, once we moved to Montreal and you started drag, we just haven't stopped. It's been a decade of us producing shows and being pillars of our community and just creating and just being so motivated and passionate about what we do. So yeah, we've been together actually since high school. So it's 21 years this year.
Wow, congratulations. But let's go back even further, because it sounds to me like you are both absolutely performers at the core. When did that start? Can you trace it back to your childhoods?
Honestly, yes. Like, when you're a kid, there's some kids, like, I was a shy kid. Like, when I was very young, I was very much like, I want to read a book and I want to play video games. But there's also another part of me that was in gymnastics and liked to perform and be the best at what I did and excel and always be on. And that's the thing with me. I have that personality where, yeah, I am an introvert, but I love to turn it on. And when I'm on, it's time to put on a show. So,
jazz hands.
Yeah, be at home and put on shows for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was really little, my grandmother, I don't know if you remember the Canadian Tire Christmas commercials where they were doing like Scrooge and Tiny Tim.
Yes.
And the little boy would say, "Is it a paper? Is it a magazine? No, it's the Canadian Tire Christmas flyer." And I used to do that as a kid, and my grandmother thought it was the most like entertaining thing in the world. So at Christmas, every year, Christmas dinner, she would get me to like do accents for our family to entertain them and everything. And just, yeah, I was in the drama club when I was in elementary school. And, I wanted to take dance classes. I eventually went to a performing arts school. So yeah, it's always been there.
That's amazing. So do you remember when you two met?
Yeah, we met online.
Oh.
And this was long before like meeting online was like, we were still in the age of the internet of like, don't talk to strangers, don't meet any of the weirdos you talk to online.
Right.
And we were like, no, let's give it a shot. We actually started talking on a forum.
Ooh, now that tells you our age.
Right.
We started talking on a forum for ravers in Ottawa. So we went to raves together. That's how we met each other. It was at these raves as like 16-year-olds.
So do you remember the first one? Did you actually meet by going to a rave together?
Yeah.
We had talked together online for probably a good 6 months before we ever met in person. Because like I said, I come from a tiny little village of 250 people. So, like getting into the city and to hang out with people wasn't always the easiest arrangement. So we were talking online for a really long time. And actually, neither of us was particularly interested in the other one. Selma thought that I was annoying, and I thought that Selma was crazy.
And they're still factual.
Sounds like the perfect foundation for a relationship.
Exactly. And then we met in person at a rave finally. And basically that first time that we met, it was like, oh, all our suspicions are confirmed. Selma's crazy, Uma's annoying. And both of us went like, congratulations, great, have a great night. Then it was the next rave that we went to. Like, we were still being friends because, again, coming from a small town as a queer kid, like, you take your friends where you can get them.
Especially then, we're talking 21 years ago, right?
Exactly.
So let's pause there for a sec to talk about what the climate was like for you.
It sounds crazy to say that it was so much more different than it is today, but it's just reality is it's very different. Like the only queer representation I had growing up was Will and Grace on TV, right? So like you didn't really see queer people represented in the media or know how they should act, or like, do you know a queer person growing up? Like it wasn't something that was common. So I'm a very self-assured person and always have been. Mm-hmm. So at 13, I came out to my parents, to everybody, and I started doing volunteer work for different organizations in Gatineau and Ottawa. And that's how I met a lot of people, because I was out there like doing volunteer work, talking to people. But it was just strange because I was this 13-year-old comforting 19, 20, 21-year-old and telling them that they can come out if they wanted to, but they don't have to if they're not safe. So it breeds this dynamic that the queer community doesn't see age the same way necessarily, because we see it through the lens of our experiences and the trials that we've been through. And those shape you a lot more than just the years you've been on this planet, right? So that's my background. And the world was very different back then. There was a lot more outwardly visible homophobia, let's say.
Selma, you were literally ahead of your time.
Always have been.
I'm curious about when it became romantic between you two. When did the sparks fly?
So yeah, the first rave we met at was actually in Canada Day, way back at a rave called Momentum. So I do remember.
For the record.
The second or third one though. Second one, yeah. We went and we both were straight edge. We didn't drink, we didn't do drugs. We just went because we really wanted to go dancing and enjoy the liberty of being with people and just enjoying music and being free, right? For us, it was just, we were high on life. And I think that's what made us connect a lot, is that we were out there to these parties just having a good time and enjoying life and being ourselves with our friends.
So set the scene for me, if you would, because I think a lot of people like me, and maybe my age, hear the word rave and they think about drugs and alcohol and, you know, it being a little bit messy. Set the scene for me, if you would, and tell me what you loved about it.
Yeah, so this was early 2000s in Ottawa, right? So it's not necessarily the same scene that Toronto or Montreal had, but basically they would throw parties in places that were not conventionally clubbed. So we had some that were in the basement of churches. We had some that were in ski lodges. They were basically throwing events in spaces that still happen now, but now they're more commercial. It was underground in the sense that not all of them were fully legal, didn't have all the permits to be there.
Right.
But it really was about getting together and enjoying music. So yes, there's people that do drugs. That's what they do when they go out to have the party and have a good time. But it's not because you went there that you would go and have drugs. The same way that some people go out to the club and have 17 shooters, and some people go out and have one fancy cocktail, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing in the rave scene, where there's so many diversity of types of people that go. But what united all of us, that we want to go out and feel the love. We have this thing in rave culture called plur. So do you want to?
So plur is peace, love, unity, and respect. That's the ethos of the candy raver, which is what we were. So we were those kids that were decked out in like bracelets up to our elbows, and we had teddy bear backpacks and like fun fur vests and fat pants and all of that stuff. Bright colors. We dyed our hair and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. That's where we were. So we were at this rave, and, at some point, because we were straight edge, like we said, we're not taking anything to keep us going all night. At some point, I got a little tired, so I took a little nap, and I slept with my head in Selma's lap. We found the quiet area of the club. Well, actually, I think this one was in a church basement.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, church basement. And then, I took a little 5-minute nap. And then afterwards, on the way back, we were on the shuttle bus, because they would drive you from the venue back into town
on a yellow bus, on the yellow school bus, everybody together.
And Selma was sleepy at that point, so she slept on my shoulder. And then that we were together then.
Wow. And where did your relationship go from there? How did it grow?
Like a roller coaster because we were 16 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, we've always had a relationship that has been authentic and honest and passionate. People always, like, people that know us will be like, oh, when you two fight, it's so explosive. I'm like, yeah, because we both care. We don't fight because we hate each other. We don't fight because we hold grudges against each other. If we fight, it's because we care deeply about one another. And what's happening is something that either upsets us or we don't feel respected. And then we fight and we sort it out and then we move on. Right. So I think the best way to describe a relationship is not a roller coaster in the sense that it was bad and horrible and good and we learned. And no, it was just a roller coaster in the sense that we're both very authentic, passionate people that care deeply and respect themselves. So we both want to be correct, which, it can happen. You can both be correct and both be wrong.
Yes, that's right. And both say yes, dear.
Yeah. I mean, well, we occasionally there's a little bit of yes, dear, and sometimes there's a little bit of whoa, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we started dating, again, like this was cell phones were just kind of becoming a commonplace thing. So because we lived so far apart, a lot of our relationship was over MSN Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And then the radio station in town used to have a call-in number that you could call into, and then you would listen to an ad, and then the ad would end, and then you would be able to dial the long distance number that you actually wanted to call, so that way we could speak to each other and not have to wait for like nights and weekends or long distance minutes.
We went too fast there. We have to explain to the children. There used to be this thing where your phone was plugged into the wall, and when you want to call people that didn't live in the same city as you, it charged you extra money to do so.
That's a very important point to add, because it's true. We just take it for granted that everyone knows that now. But yeah, okay, landlines. Wow,
Yeah.
The landline. You built your relationship through a landline. I love it.
Yeah, my VTech see-through red phone. Yeah.
Oh, that is so great. I know now when Uma started drag, but I'd love to hear about you, Selma. So you were already together.
Yeah. So we're already together. I had been producing our shows and managing backstage. I was still hosting as Noah Gahd, as Uma's husband. I had a glitter beard, a full persona, costumes, and the whole shebang. But then this show came on called Dragula, which is, for people that don't know what it is, it's kind of like Drag Race, but for underground weirdos, horror metal fans.
Oh.
So it's absolutely wild. And I had seen a lot of drag and been like, yeah, I love drag. Obviously, I with Uma and I produced drag plays. We traveled all over the place. I obviously enjoy drag. But when I saw Dragula and I saw these performers doing such unexpected takes on drag, it really fueled a passion side of me, because I've always loved weird art. I've always loved things that make people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked to push people's buttons. I'm a very respectful person, but I like to make people go, I like to make people see things outside of their comfort zone, because I feel that's the best way to make people realize that it's not as bad as they think it is, right?
Right.
So I saw Dragula, especially season 2, episode 1, where they did the Cenobites and they came out as these creatures from horror movies, and it just floored me. It absolutely floored me. I was like, now I want to do this. So I decided, as any rational, common person, to start doing drag with my very own monthly show that I hosted myself. And I did that, and that show has been a sellout ever since day one.
Since day one. Okay, you were meant to do it, clearly.
Yeah, well, it helps that we had been producing for at that point already 5 years. So we already had a name as a company for producing shows, but I had never performed. But people had seen me host and do all kinds of stuff. So, and I always have a background in circus, so obviously I know how to perform. So my jump into drag wasn't as big of a leap as the common mortal, who's never been on stage, never put on makeup, never performed. People would tell me, oh, you'll see, Selma, wearing heels is not as easy as you think. And I'd be like, well, I used to wear 10-foot high stilts. I think I'll be fine.
I'm curious about, so you said you weren't drinking or doing drugs, but you must have been high when you were on stilts. And was there a feeling of a great buzz for both of you when you started doing drag? Was there a natural high in that?
I think when I started in drag, like I said, it was in that fringe festival theater piece called Loreen, Queen of the Tundra. And it was one of the wildest things that I've ever done because it was political, it was queer, it was in drag, it was something that I wrote. I had never written a theater piece before. So like it was so many firsts all at once. And then really like it took off. It was a huge success. Not even just by fringe standards, but just by like theater standards. It was great. And so, yeah, there was that buzz of kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this thing that I said I would never do, this thing I never wanted to do, this thing that I thought I would be terrible at. Everyone's telling me how great I am. This is so weird. It's so exciting. Everybody loves me. Everyone's looking at me.
It sounds overwhelming, though, as well.
That first show was absolutely cuckoo banana pants. There was 6 of us in the show, and there was 52 costume changes.
That is cuckoo banana pants.
Yeah, it was wild. And it was during the Harper administration, and we were critiquing the administration at the time. and so there was a lot, and politically there was a lot going on because they had put in these
well, basically the anti-terrorist laws that basically meant that if you say anything against the government, you could be qualified as a terrorist. So we were just waiting for them to like, the name of the play is named after his wife. So we were just waiting for them to show up one night and be like, hi, everyone, get in the van.
Interesting.
It was a wild experience.
So that to me says you're drag queens, but you're also activists.
I kind of got thrown into the activist end. Before I started doing drag, I actually identified very much as like an apolitical person. I was like, I'm not smart enough to understand what's going on. There are much smarter people in the room that get what's going on. I'm going to let them take care of it. And then doing drag, you realize I realized how much more I understood than I thought I did, and how important our voices are, and how important community is, and how important the fight is. So yeah, like whether I intended to or not, I became an activist. I'm not at the front of every single protest, but when I'm on the mic, there's something to say, it's getting said. Like that's the way that our drag has always been, because not everyone in drag, not everyone in our city who performs does that, but it's always been where we started. So
judging by the energy with which you say that, what I imagine is that you light fires within other people.
Very much that part, yes. So that ties into what I was going to answer for the question originally, was that, a lot of performers get this like high from performing, or this like anxiety of going on stage. I'm one of those really weird people that I don't get stage fright. I don't get anxiety. I'm a super like A-type personality, goal-oriented, overachiever. So for me, when I'm on stage in front of thousands of people, it just feels correct. It's like, yes, this is what I should be doing. Mm-hmm. This is where I need to be. This is what I'm good at. I feel fulfilled when I'm doing it. I feel joy and I feel excitement, but I don't feel anxiety or like a high of like, oh my God, the buzzing. That usually happens after, because like I said, I prefer being at home reading a book and cuddling my dog than I prefer hang out with thousands of people. So for me, it's more the energetic, like, wow, that was wild. But I've always been a little bit social politics involved. Like I've always, like I said, since I've been 13, I've been on helplines, talking to people, going to schools, speaking up against homophobia. I've always been very much involved in that front. So for me, when I pick up a mic, I always want to make sure that I have something to say and I say it. And yes, we're going to be entertaining. We're going to have a great night. We're going to have fun and laughs. But it's not just fun and laughs. There's real things that we need to talk about. There's real things that need to be addressed. And if I don't say them, who will? I'm the one with a mic in my hands. I'm the one that can make people listen. They don't have a choice because the sound system is blasting it. So I will make sure they hear what I have to say.
That's a powerful perspective, really. Really cool. And I guess I have to talk about the drag race because, you know, so many people will have watched you and enjoyed the suspense and the entertainment. Tell me what kind of an experience it was from the inside, Uma.
I was really, really lucky because I've been able to work with a lot of different artists who have been on shows like Drag Race. So whether it's Dragula or Steampunk or Drag Race in different countries, I've worked with a lot of really great artists who have done this before. And so I have a lot of, I was prepared with a lot of that insider perspective. I had a good understanding of what to expect from production and what the edit feels like not what the edit looks like, what the edit feels like. What does it feel like to come home months later, you get to see yourself on TV and go, huh, you know, like I was well prepared for a lot of that. So my experience of Drag Race was overwhelmingly positive. I went in knowing that only one person can win. And yes, I absolutely could win, but mathematically, I probably won't.
Yeah.
And that meant that when I went in, I was like, you know what? I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this to represent my community. You know, Montreal drag is very, very particular on the grand national scale. No one does it quite like we do it. And I know every city says that, but that's because every city is a little bit different. But Montreal really has something particular. And so I said, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to be doing it for the other drag artists from Montreal. I want to show people what it is that we do, what I do, because my drag couldn't exist the way that it does in any other city.
Say more about that if you would. I want to know what it is about Montreal that is different.
Well, the biggest thing for Montreal is that we have drag cabarets. So like, yes, there are drag artists that are performing in nightclubs and in bars and things like that, but we have drag cabarets. So that means that there's people who come in and there's tables for them to sit at, and they're there to watch a show with drag artists that are hosting, that are doing numbers. You know, if you go to Toronto, their biggest venues are kind of like the drag is almost incidental. So it's at a nightclub and there's a drag show going on. So you're competing with the people that are there to drink. You're competing with the people that are there to dance. You're competing with the people that are there to cruise and hook up. And you're trying to entertain all of them and capture all their attention. And then they are one drag artist on stage in one costume for 30 minutes doing back-to-back numbers.
Right.
So they do it in one costume and that's it. So there's not a lot. They're athletes.
Yeah. Totally different scene.
Yeah.
They're athletic jukebox machines.
Yeah, they're athletic jukeboxes. And I don't say that as like as to be shady. Like they've said it themselves. That's the style of drag that exists there for the most part. Whereas in Montreal, we're only doing 4 numbers in a whole show. And then that means that I get to change my costume every time. I can bring you a new character. I can use a song that maybe people don't want to dance to. Maybe I can use audio from a movie and make a joke about it. So like the style of our drag is very vaudeville. It's very cabaret. So when I brought my drag to Drag Race, I said, that's what I want to show people. I want to show people the artistry of drag that we do the way we do it. And I said, as long as I get to show that, it doesn't matter whether or not I win, because what I've done is demonstrated to the world what I do. And that means that I've opened myself up to a whole new audience. And the people, there's lots of people that don't necessarily understand the drag that I do. You know, my makeup is crazy. When I'm in drag, I put on a voice and I have a little Midwestern accent. And you know, I'm out there doing some crazy, everyone calls me Auntie Uma because I'm an old lady. So there's a lot of people that don't get what I'm doing. But the thing is, going on Drag Race, I wasn't doing it necessarily just to win. I was trying to win. But I knew that even if I didn't win, the people, maybe not everyone would like me, but the people that like what I do will have found me. So that was really important for me. So that's why when I came out of it, I was still, of course, I was disappointed that I didn't win. Spoilers, everyone, I don't win. But I was still very proud of everything that I got to bring.
Was it hard to keep the secret during that time when you were still in the vault and no one could know that you had been on the show?
The hardest part of keeping the secret is that, like, unfortunately, there's ways for people to know that someone is on Drag Race. You know, you disappear from your socials at a certain time for a certain amount of time and everyone kind of figures it out.
Right.
That's kind of out of our hands. But that means that the hardest part of keeping the secret is that no one wants to keep the secret. No one else is playing the same game as you. So they sit there and they go, I can't wait to see you on TV. And you have to go, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's terrible because you want to celebrate. You want to tell everyone. You want everyone to know because it's so exciting. But you have to lie. And the more you lie, the more people argue with you. And the more that you argue, the more people think that you're lying. So it's just kind of one of those things I always tell everyone. If you think that your favorite drag artist is on Drag Race, zip it.
Just don't say a thing.
Don't say a thing, because if they did get on, they legally can't tell you. And all they want to do is tell you. And if they didn't get on, all you're doing is reminding them that they didn't get on and you're arguing with them about it. No one wins. So just wait till the promotional material comes out. Wait till you see their face and then get excited with them.
Okay, so let's speed through. Let's fast forward to the part where it was actually fun to hear from people about their reaction.
I mean, obviously that was wonderful. Like I said, my family has always been really, really, really supportive of me in all of the art that I've ever tried to do. I've gone to visual arts classes. I was in the drama club. I took ballet classes. I went to an art school. They've always been there to support me. And for instance, my grandmother was always my biggest fan. She's the one that wanted me to always do these accents. She always said, oh, that one's going to be on TV. That one's going to be a big superstar. And the day that I got to finally tell her, look, it's me. I'm on TV. And she was like, oh, that's nice. And she thought that they had recorded one of my shows that I could, one of my cabaret shows. She thought that they had recorded it. And I was like, no, Mame, this is an internationally viewed drag competition that is made by the TV company. And I'm going to be on this show for weeks. And to see the wheels in her head turn as she realized, oh my God, it's actually happening. It was just my heart was so big. And my mom had the same kind of moment where for the premiere, my mom, my dad, my sister and her boyfriend, my godmother and her husband, they all came to Montreal. They came to the bar where I work, and we got to watch the episode up on the big screen. And my mom doesn't get emotional about things. And she spent several minutes of the episode intermittently just sobbing openly.
Oh, no.
Just from pride. And that meant the world to me. It's just, it really is kind of one of those things where it's something that we've all been dreaming about and joking about, and now it's real. And it was wild.
Oh my gosh, that is really going straight to my heart, because you think about how many kids struggle when they're coming out with family members who don't understand, don't accept. And it's so heartening to hear stories like that, particularly about your grandmother. Because did you call her Mame?
Yeah, Mame.
Mame. She was from such a different generation when the societal norms were so locked up. And the idea that she's so excited to see you expressing yourself in this way is truly beautiful.
Well, that's part of the reason why Uma exists in the way that she does. When I started in drag, it was kind of one of those things where a lot of people had the same makeup and they all wanted to be blonde and they all wanted to be Britney Spears and they all wanted to be, I don't know if I can use a big word here, but they all wanted to be mean, B words.
Oh, okay. Itch with a B?
Exactly. That's what they all wanted to be, because they wanted to be the head girl in charge. And when I was in drag, I wanted to be I always say that God loves you as you are, because I wanted to be everyone's unofficial auntie. I wanted to be the presence in someone's life that says, I see you, I love you, I uplift you, we're in this together, because I was blessed to have a family that said that to me. And I know how important it can be to hear somebody say, I care about you, I love what you're doing, I want to celebrate you. So when I was in drag, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to take that opportunity. If I was going to be on stage, if I was going to have a mic, I wanted to be up there to make people feel cared for.
That is one of the most lovely things I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're ruining my mascara, Uma. I knew I shouldn't have worn any today. Oh my goodness. What is it that you two, you have such an interesting dynamic relationship that some people might not understand from the outside looking in? Take me from the inside looking out. What is it that you two love about each other and your relationship?
So I've always had the philosophy in life of you only live once. It's gonna get dark. It's gonna get dark a little bit here. But
Dark is okay.
It's important to talk about. I was growing up as a young queer kid. I was the only queer kid out my age, and I was doing all this help in the community centers and the call centers and everything. And unfortunately, in 1 year, I had 6 friends commit suicide, and that's not something any 13-year-old should ever have to live through.
That's horrific.
Like, that's not a normal thing for a child to have to process.
Brutal.
And I'm lucky that like Uma, I have a family that loves me and supports me and would go around the world for me, right? I'm very, very blessed to have a family that supports me and has been loving me unconditionally since day one of my existence on earth. But having been confronted with how nasty the world can be to people for no reason, right? Being nasty to people because they love somebody, and be confronted with that at such a young age, it made me realize you can't take anything for granted. You can't wait till tomorrow to do the things you love. You really have to do them today and be authentic and be yourself and find your joy, because nothing is guaranteed and no one is going to give that to you. You have to take it. So, yeah. That's really shaped my life and who I am. And that's shaped my drag too. Like, Selma is a lot more aggressive than Uma is. We're both in the idea of like uplifting people, but Selma is very much about empowering people and making them feel like their voice matters. So yeah.
Thank you for that.
So like when we're together, it sounds so selfish. It's so, I sound like such a diva when I say this, but Selma runs my life for me. She takes care of everything. I am someone who, like, I need very, very, very little to be satisfied in the world.
This is true.
So
You're a low maintenance girl?
Very low maintenance for myself, because I'm happy to lay in bed and rot. I am happy to eat tuna fish sandwiches every day. I am happy to take a bath and like sit there for 2.5 hours and do nothing. I don't need a lot in the world. But Selma is somebody that like she strives. She wants more out of life. She wants the best, or maybe not even the best. She just wants everything. She wants the possibility to be endless. And so she takes very good care of me, because she is, she's making my food. She's my manager. So she's doing all of my bookings, and she drives me everywhere. She helps me style my costumes. I always make the joke that like, I'm not even talking right now. I'm just doing a lip sync and she's the one that's talking. Like, she runs my life for me. And I often feel really, really guilty. Of course, there's things that I do as well. Like, I'm the one that takes care of the laundry and like the dishes and keeping the home nice and cute and decorated and all that stuff. I try to do little things on my own as well. But, I sometimes feel guilty about it. But we've always said that we're in this together. We're in this celebrating, and the work doesn't always look the same, but on both sides, we're both doing things. But she takes very good care of me, and I'm just very, very, very blessed and thankful. I am a well-kept woman. When I was little, my grandfather used to take care of me before and after school. He said, "You know what, kid? You're either going to marry young or die of starvation." So I got engaged at 18 to a pastry chef,
Okay, so I hear how much gratitude you have. This is your chance for payback. What is it you love most about Selma?
I mean, there is no security that I've ever felt since, my childhood, of course, was extremely secure. My parents loved me and took very, very good care of me. But there's a very special kind of security that comes from your partner making sure that everything is okay. Like Selma has lived through me, changing schools, moving to a new city. Selma has lived through me going through airport security.
Multiple times.
So the thing that I love the most about Selma is the security that she is able to engender in our lives, and the way that makes so many things possible, because that's what it takes. It takes security, and then creativity can flow from everywhere after that. And so it makes our lives so much richer just because she is such a good caregiver.
Yeah. And I mean, that stems from the same point I was bringing up earlier, is that I'm willing to take risks, because what's life without taking any risks? I don't want to live my life. I should have. I rather live with maybe that was a bad idea. That's a better thing to live with than I should have, I could have, I would have. So I'm willing to take risks also because I know that as long as I have a roof over my head and food in my belly and people I love around me, the rest doesn't actually matter. It's all made up numbers in a system that I have no control over. It's people's opinions that I can't change. The whole world outside of that doesn't matter. So I'm a very big risk taker, but I also know that because of my capacities and who I am, I will always be able to turn around and find a solution. As long as I'm safe and my family's safe, the rest doesn't matter. So the thing I love about a relationship the most that a lot of people don't understand is that it's not about necessarily being the same person or liking all of the same things. I love video games. Uma can't stand playing video games. We're very different people. But I think what unites us is our passion for making the world a better place, our passion for life and caring about other people, and having values that align, right? You want to make sure that the person you're with, your values align. And I think that's where there's friction with families sometimes, that you don't choose your family. And it's when you realize that your parents are actually faulty human beings, and that they are allowed to be wrong, and you're allowed to call them out on it, and you're allowed to have different values and discuss those things. That's when I think things shift between parent and child relationships. But in a relationship with a partner, you have to decide, are we on the same train track? Are we going in the same direction? Because that's what matters. That's what makes a long-term relationship work, is, are we heading in the same direction? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be on the exact same train at the exact same time at the exact same speed. As long as we're both going in the same direction, we can figure the rest out. And I think that's what's been so wonderful about our relationship, is that, when I went back to university and was working full time at the same time, and you were working, it wasn't the same as now where we're living off of our art, but we were both striving for goals that mattered to both of us. And it made us be able to go through harder times, right? Because we both had the same vision.
So as different as you are, what is it you love most about Uma?
Yeah, tell them what you love most about me.
Yeah, tell them. I love it.
Do you want the real answer? No. What I love the most about Uma is that she's not afraid to live life 200% authentically and with care. Because caring for people isn't always easy. Showing up for people isn't always easy. And Uma will always show up for people, no questions asked. No judgment. Will always be there, but will also hold people accountable and call them out, and is not scared of confrontation. Sometimes you have to tell someone, no, you're wrong, and you need to sit down and you need to listen. And Uma is both capable of being a compassionate, gentle person, but also stand up and say what has to be said. And if you watch Drag Race, you know what I'm talking about right now.
I'm going to go back and watch all of it. Trust me.
I told everyone I'm there for Uma's best friend race, so I'm not there to start fights, but I will end them.
I will end them. Well, on that note, I just want to say that you are both obviously amazing amplifiers, and I'd love to know what message you would like to amplify in the world about love.
So there's so much love in so many different places, even now when things look really, really bleak. So I want to tell people, find what you love and do it. It's the time, because doing what you love is going to make love in the world, which will make the world a better place. There is part of me that wants to talk about, what is it? The parable of the choir, where, when we all get in this together, when we show each other love and we support each other like that, a choir, it's not everyone singing full blast all the time at every second. It's some people sing louder so that other people can take a breath, but you never hear the note change. I want to tell people about whenever we get hired for a bachelorette, I always tell people the same thing. For us, the key that we found for our relationship is that, for so much people tell you that love is not fighting. Never go to bed angry. No, sometimes you need a nap. Okay? Like sometimes you need a nap. And love is conflict sometimes. We fight at least once a week. At least once a week, there is a loud discussion that we need to have. But the thing is every time we do it because we care, because we love each other. And there is either something that I know I need Selma to understand about me, or I realize that there's something about Selma that I'm not getting, and I need to take that time to understand it. And that's it, where it's like, make every fight count. Love doesn't mean there's always peace and harmony. Love is making every argument count, learning about each other every time. And that's relationship-wise, but also societally. Go out with love. When there's someone that you disagree with, there's love to be had there. There's communication to be had there. And if you're both in it for a reason that counts, that's the cargo. There can be so much. Yes, of course, there's people that we don't need to engage with. Of course, there's people we don't need to engage with. But there is so much love to be had even through conflict. So like right now, the world is scary. And I just want people to go out and like, as somebody say, I want everyone to go and make love.
Well, that's the first time we've ended the Love Map podcast with that proclamation or edict.
I think what I have to say ties into that. Uma just said it. The world is on fire around us. Let's be very frank. Like, it's been rough these last couple of years, and it's getting rougher, and it will get rougher. I don't want to be discouraging, but it's just the reality of the political landscape we're in right now. But what I want to tell people to remember is two things. The first one is that romantic love is not everything. Love your friends, love your family, love your community. That is what's going to keep you going the longest. Romantic love isn't always forever, and that's fine. That's the first thing. But the second thing to me, which is the most important, is love loudly, love fiercely, love unabashedly, because the haters out there will not shy away from hating as loud as they want, to find people on their personal profiles to harass them, to talk to you on the street and say something disparaging. So what you need to do out there in the world is proclaim love as loud as you can, as often as you can, so that the people that are full of hate, that want to say hateful things, feel ashamed. We want to shame them, but with love. We want to make sure that our love is so loud that they feel like the weird ones. Stop letting people stop you from loving. I know it sounds silly, but we are so afraid of telling people that we love them. We're so afraid, and we feel like it's taken for granted. Oh, everybody knows. No, tell people you love them. Say, bye, I love you, I have such a great day. And tell people you love them. And when you see negative comments online, you don't have to fight the people necessarily. But what you should do is leave a positive comment. Leave some love in the world. If we all amplify the love that we have, we can really change the world around us.
Well, you are preaching to the choir, believe me. And, I said you were both amplifiers, but I want to thank you for your ample fire, because that's what you're bringing. That's what I hear. That's what I feel. It's what I see. And I just want to say thank you so much, not just for being on the show today, but bringing all of that ample fire to our listeners.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And really, stitch that on a pillow. That's trademark that. That's some brilliant work you just did there.
I'm inspired. What can I say?
Thank you.
Thank you both so much.